Triple digit heat. I wore 12 summer scents outside. Some sliced through the humidity, some tapped out by lunch, and a couple stuck with me all day long. Real wear, mid-July, stupid heat. Here's what actually happened on skin. Let's see who survived. Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. So yeah, basically the entire month of July where I live and also where I vacationed, heat was the name of the game. The heat index for all the days where I was wearing the fragrances I'm gonna talk to you about here today was between 105 and 110. It was sweltering. It was basically walking through a sauna that you can't escape. Unless you jumped into a place with air conditioning, which I was doing, yeah. Oh, and if you don't use Fahrenheit, it is this in centigrade. That is hot. Everything I talked to you guys about is gonna be linked below. Let's start with the first fragrance that I tested out, Sauvage Eau Forte. Yeah, when I was gathering up all the scents to take with me, this one for some reason just caught my eye. Because it's supposed to be the fresher Sauvage. You know, it has the intensity of a parfum, but the freshness of an eau de toilette. At least I think that's what they said when they, came out with this one. Now it is an odd fragrance. It doesn't have alcohol. Instead it has water. It's like a water-based milk-looking fragrance. And you know what? When it's crazy hot outside and you spray this one on, it actually does have a really nice cooling effect. Peppery lavender freshness hits you right away. The fragrance feels a little weird on the skin because it is kind of sticky. And when the humidity is crazy high outside, it just feels even more gross when you spray this on. For lack of better terminology, you just have white globs that sit on your skin and it feels sticky and you feel sticky because of, again, the humidity, the heat. It's not a great combo. It's kind of, yeah, just nasty feeling. Now you can take the fragrance and rub it in after you spray it on, so that's a possibility, but I didn't do that. And even though it does have like a funky, weird feeling to it, it also has this chilling effect, almost like taking a cold stone or something and just kind of running it across your skin where you sprayed the fragrance on, which is kind of cool. As it dries down, it's got soft, musky woods, but unfortunately, in the high heat, this stuff gets swallowed up pretty quick. Even in mild weather, it's kind of a skin hugger, sits pretty close. And when it is really, really hot outside, this one just kind of begins to dissipate and disappear into the air. It could shine maybe if you layer it under something else, but I was just wearing it solo. Unfortunately, in the high heat, this one basically died pretty quickly. And if you were right up close, you could catch a little clean whiff of the fragrance, but it was akin to being at a rock concert and trying to have a conversation with somebody. You're there, it's there, but nobody is hearing it, or in this case, smelling it. Goodbye, Eau Forte. The next day, I went with this, Legend Blue by Montblanc. This one opens up with a really nice crisp blast of mint and lavender, and it has a great cooling effect when it's crazy hot outside. And thankfully, it also feels normal on your skin, so that's good too. It's in the same general ballpark as Parfums de Marly Percival, but it's a little bit more relaxed than that one, not quite as loud or heavy. And in the heat, that mint actually smells great, especially when it's an oppressive heat, where you just feel kind of depressed even being outside underneath the sun. Makes it sound like I'm a vampire. That's not what I mean. What I mean is when you step outside and you're like, I'm gonna be walking 20,000 plus steps today in this heat. Somebody help me. And it actually held on a little better than I expected. I thought it was gonna dissipate pretty quick, but it actually hung around for a while. And then into the dry down, the soft cedar wood and everything else just smells nice, welcoming, easygoing. So even in those brutal conditions, it stuck around for a while, had a really pleasant scent cloud, and actually performed better than I expected. I thought this one was gonna kind of disappear a little quicker than it did. The next fragrance is a big one. It's Rabanne's Invictus Aqua. This one hits you with that very familiar blast right off the top, a little bit bubblegummy, fresh, sweet, aquatics, and citrus. It's bright, it's a little bit sporty even, it's playful, attention grabbing, and in the heat smells awesome. It actually thrived in the heat. Even with those temperatures cracking triple digits, it cut through. So it hit that warm, humid air almost like a sea breeze. You wouldn't expect it, right? Because a lot of people will go, oh, Invictus, too sweet, too bubblegummy, too this, too that. but it actually smelled great. And off my skin, it came across very well balanced, actually. Something that maybe people don't always associate Invictus with, but it wasn't overly cloying. And as the hours churned on, the fragrance stuck with me. The performance was there. You could still pick it up as I moved around. It didn't end up smelling funky or off-putting, even though, again, it was insanely humid. It did not wilt, and that marine freshness with a touch of like saltiness and a little bit of an amber woodsy kind of dry down, it worked. It worked well. And I think wearing it in that situation specifically, bumped up against a bunch of fragrances in a row, kind of drives home why this one was so popular when it first dropped. It's one of those things where once you experience it, you're like, oh yeah, this stuff is working. Now I've also got a couple wild cards in here that I threw in, some fragrances that are not typical summer scents. But we're gonna get to those in just a second. Before we do that, the codes, and of course there are updates, or there have been updates, I guess I should say. The Gift Express and Perfume Box codes you can now use unlimited times, so take note of that. If you've used those in the past, try to use them again and they didn't work, now they will. Also have a code for Fragrance Lord, so you can use that to save yourself some money. Then of course we got the JOMASHOP codes that work within the JOMASHOP app to save a little cash there as well. So anytime you shop any of those stores, use those codes, save yourself some money. The next scent that I went with was this one, Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Beau Flower Edition. And the reason I brought this one along is because I'm really familiar with Paradise Garden and Le Beau Le Parfum. I've worn those a bunch. This one, not as much. And I figured if I'm gonna be out and about for this long, outdoors in nuts heat, then why not? Which, in case you're wondering, well, where were you when you were doing all this stuff? Williamsburg, Virginia, Virginia Beach, Virginia, mainly, those two spots. So Busch Gardens and the beach and the water park and just a bunch of stuff up there. And I thought it wouldn't be that hot until we got right up close to when we were leaving, and I was checking the weather, and it was like, oh, it's hotter there. Up north. It's not that far up north. It's just a little further north than where I am. I say up north like I'm going to Massachusetts or Maine or something. But you know what I mean. It was hot. So, Flower Edition. This one is supposed to be like the fresher, fruitier, zingier type of Le Beau. So it has kumquat in there, for example, instead of, you know, a denser coconut note like some of the other ones do. The bright opening worked really well at first. Zingy, attention grabbing, brisk, sweet, but the projection did kind of settle in decently quick. You know, this one definitely underperforms compared to the other Le Beaux. It did stick around for hours. It just didn't project all that far. It was more a steady, pleasant presence instead of being a room filler. So it has this easygoing tropical kind of vibe to it. Again, easy to wear. You don't have to worry about it being too cloying, which potentially with like Le Beau Le Parfum, you could run into that issue. With this one, not as much. But if you're looking for something with a little more push to it, this one may not work out as well for you. All right, the first wild card, Sauvage Elixir. So Elixir is kind of like the bull in a china shop fragrance out of all the ones here today. It's pretty strong. Dense lavender, heavy spices, rich amber woods. That's what you're gonna get here. And I do have to admit, I did not go that heavy with the trigger. And I've smelled people wearing this in summer before, so I knew it could work. And it did, as far as performance goes. It was pretty strong, but it felt wearing it almost like wearing a heavy coat in the middle of July. Just instead of a physical coat, it was an olfactive coat. It cut through the heat with like razor sharp clarity. I picked that up constantly as I was moving around. Again, I didn't go that heavy, but the few sprays that I did, they were noticeable. It was impressive, absolutely. It also felt like overkill, like bringing a broadsword to a water balloon fight. Like, dude, that's overkill. What are you doing? You're insane. Did it work? Yes. Can it get you noticed? Yes. Did I feel at times, why am I wearing this? Yes. Eros Energy was the next choice. Something to bring it back with more freshness. Now this one explodes out of the gate, especially in the heat, man. This is just citrus on top of citrus on top of citrus. Lemon, lime, grapefruit, the works. Pretty much anything that you could throw at it in terms of citrus notes, it has. And in the heat, that sparkle, that citrusy pop, that punch, that little bit of tart sourness mixed with fresh sweetness, lingers and lasts. Now, it never necessarily went full beast mode, not like this, obviously, but that kind of fresh, energetic pop, that liveliness, it stuck around for a while, and it actually really boosted my mood. Never felt heavy, never felt weighed down, and I absolutely love how this one comes across in the heat. After that, Aqua de Joe Profondo, but I brought along the Eau de Toilette. And I have to say, initially, I picked up the Eau de Parfum, and that's the one that I had, and like last second, I went, I'll go ahead and bring this one. I mean, what other situation would you pick Profondo Eau de Toilette over the Eau de Parfum than that? So I was like, well, if I'm ever gonna do it, now is the time. So I grabbed it and rolled. Now this is another one where the opening, when it is crazy hot, just hits the right spot. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Aqua de Joe Profondo Eau de Toilette, it's boring, it's redundant, it's this, it's that. But that opening really kicks when it's hot outside. It's another one that's really bright, brisk, fresh, a little touch sharp, but it just really opens your eyes, gets you ready for the day. Exactly the kind of lift, mood booster that you want when it's hot outside. Especially if you're like on a beach vacation or something, that stuff really good. It is absolutely killer in that initial opening. Yeah, when you first spray this on, head outside, top notch. The issue is it fades out pretty quick. So there is that. And there were times where I was like, man, I kind of wish I had the Eau de Parfum just so it had a little more sticking power to it. But eventually I kind of came around and just went, oh, the Eau de Toilette is cool for what it does. You can blast it on, you can overspray, you can reapply if you want to. And as long as you have that mindset, you can just reapply, and that opening is great. You can relive it over and over again. Even if I was halfway to passing out from heat stroke, like that opening each time would make me like, I'm happy, oh, I'm dying. But unfortunately, it does get swallowed up by the heat. Missoni Wave, had to bring that, of course. It opens bright, slightly creamy, great citrus in the opening, of course, a little bit reminiscent of Allure Homme Sport and Versace Pour Homme. It has kind of a relaxing feel to it also, you know, it's kind of like a warm breeze coming in off the ocean. It just hits you the right way. And it keeps that freshness, that bit of sweetness for a pretty good while. It was not necessarily room filling once I got out and about, you know, in the middle of the heat, in the middle of the day, but it was pleasant, it was noticeable, and it makes you feel put together, and it doesn't come across too heavy either. I also packed this one, Rue Broca's Nexa Immortal, which this one is a little bit similar to Greenlee by Parfums de Marly, but it has more of this like fresh, citrusy pop when you first spray it on in comparison. And it fires right out the gate. As soon as you spray this stuff on, apple and citrus, smells great. Really clean, brisk, sweet, bright, juicy, instantly refreshing. This is another one of those ones that when you spray it on, it boosts your mood, which is what I was looking for. And that opening stays vibrant for a while. Like it really has this almost just energetic kind of feel to it. Fizzy, bubbly, sweet and fresh. And that kind of fizziness, that energy that it has helps it cut through the air very well, especially in the opening. And the little bit of woodiness that it has in the base, also not heavy either, even far into the dry down. And I would say out of everything here, this is one of the easiest to wear, most refreshing ones. Also brought along Pierce by French Avenue. This one is a clone of Perseus. Again, a vibrant burst off the top. Citrus, grapefruit, woods when you spray this one on. Whoop, whoop. It is a little different than everything else here because it has more of a noticeable aromatic edge to it along with that woodiness. Could also remind you a little bit of some Terre d'Hermes fragrances. A little more along the lines of like Eau Givre or something, you know, a fresher Terre d'Hermes, but still. This one also has a touch of a cooling effect when you first spray it on, which is really nice. It also lingers for a while, projects pretty well, which makes good sense because this is more a spring summertime fragrance. It's not like a straight up freshy. It didn't necessarily scream for attention, but it lasts a long time, especially compared to some of the other ones. This one actually stood up to the heat. The last wild card was this one, Bad Boy by Herrera, just the original. Now this one has a blend of spices, cacao, tonka, all coming together. You know, it's sweet, it's warm, and I don't know what I was expecting exactly, but when you spray this on in really high heat, a lot of humidity, it gets like even stickier sweet. It's almost like a really, really rich dessert after an already heavy meal, you know? You go like, oh yeah, that looks pretty good. And you go ahead and have a bite of like, I don't know, a really decadent chocolate cake. You have 1 or 2 bites and you're just like, I physically cannot eat more or I'm gonna puke. It was like that, except a fragrance. I did not go as light on the trigger with this one as I did that one. Unfortunately, maybe that was a mistake, but in the high heat, the high humidity, this one does not open up. It doesn't bloom as much. You know, fall, winter, when it's a little frosty, a little cold outside, you get more of the different facets of this fragrance that come through. In the high heat, it was basically just sweet on top of sweet on top of sweet, and I did not want to be smelling that all day long. But I did. And the final one was this, Marwa by Arabiyat Prestige. Now this one has probably the best atomizer of anything here, just a fantastic atomizer. I shouldn't have done that. Fantastic atomizer, it's real good. So you can absolutely blast this one on. It's got this great airy citrus musk vibe, you know, very similar to Vuitton's Imagination, but it is maybe a little bit breezier than that one, which worked out great for me. It has that soft tea-like sweetness underneath, but a great sparkling citrus when you first spray it on. It doesn't go too sharp or too soapy, so that also helps in terms of wearing it in the middle of, you know, Death Star level summer. And it stayed surprisingly pleasant and present. You could pick that up for hours. It felt like a refined summer cologne dialed in just right. You know, you can pick it up, but it's not cloying or headache inducing. Now, of all of these, the one that impressed me the most, the one that when I was wearing it, I was like, I get it. I finally get it. Invictus Aqua. This was easily the standout. If I had to pick just one, Invictus Aqua crushed. Attention grabbing, it lasts a long time, great balance of fresh and sweet, even in that heat. It stuck around, it stuck with me, and even once it hit that far dry down, there was never a point where I was smelling it like, oh, this is too much, it's cloying, it's weird, it's off-putting, it's got this headache-inducing facet. It was great for me. Also, Nexa Immortal, I would put up there, mainly just because of how refreshing it is, and still that balance of fresh and sweet. Eros Energy, love the citrus in here. Great mood booster, stuck around way longer than I expected. Pierce was also very good, but a little bit of a change of pace. I did wear that on a day where it was not quite as hot as these, but it still worked well, stuck around. And then probably Marwa, because that one had a really nice balance. Missoni Wave, also fantastic. Wore that on a beach day, which I typically do with this fragrance. It just always works. Acqua di Gio Eau de Toilette, great for like 30 minutes. And then the other ones just could not quite match up with these. So that is what happened on my vacation. In between absolutely sweating out 5 pounds a day, I was wearing a bunch of different fragrances. Some of them mistakes, some of them not. Thank you guys for hanging with me. As of when I'm shooting this, you know, we're about to be heading into fall, so cooler weather around the corner. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.